1 in every 7 people in America lives with a learning disability. That makes it difficult for them to read, write, or reason. For those kids and their parents, school can be a nightmare, but there are ways to help children experience learning in a new way that fits their needs. Every day, 55 million American kids go to school, but not all of them are learning.
I have trouble spelling out, sounding out words.
I was barely able to read, barely able to write.
You just have a hard time, with math, reading, writing.
It's estimated that 5 to 10% of the population has dyslexia.
So it's probably flour.
Dyslexia is the most common of many learning disabilities that stem from differences in how the brain processes information.
It can affect reading, and writing together. It can affect math. It can affect visual skills.
Students can also have auditory processing problems. That's not the way that the ear works, but what happens between the ear and the brain.
While disabilities vary from person to person, they're not an indication of intelligence.
A person can be of above average intelligence and still have a learning disability.
But children with learning disabilities do have needs that aren't always met in a typical classroom.
Yeah, line up in a really clean line, everybody. Don't lean up against the wall.
80% of students attending the lab school in Washington, D.C. have a language-based learning disorder.
If a child struggles with receptive language, then we're going to use visual arts. We're going to teach them through different senses.
They developed an academic club program that immerses kids in history, geography, literature, and science.
Enamel terracotta. Enamel terracotta.
To get into the Renaissance Club, you must say the password, a ritual that builds vocabulary for kids who can't read well.
From the darkness of the Middle Ages comes the light of the Renaissance.
When the children step into this room, they are in Florence, in Italy, in maybe 1480.
Draw some more ideas.
Each student becomes a character from that time period.
Michelangelo. I made really big nude statues.
I'm Leonardo da Vinci, and I painted the Mona Lisa.
Of course, you could read about frescoes in the Renaissance, but it's much more effective to have the kids actually create a fresco from scratch.
Or learn the connection between music and math.
Another rule that we use in our... Yes?
Pattern?
A pattern.
The theory is that students do best when they have active hands-on project learning.
No matter what the learning deficit.
One child's going to have a hard time with working with fine motor. I can help them with that. Another may have a difficulty verbally reflecting on a project, and I can help that child.
Spin! You want to spin? No.
Learning disabilities sometimes come with medical challenges.
The very moment she was born, I knew that something wasn't right. She didn't open her eyes. She didn't feed properly.
Shayna Desert was 10 days old when doctors diagnosed acid reflux. At age 1, she needed tubes to drain her ears.
By the age of 3 or so, she still wasn't talking.
Shayna had a gap in her palate caused by
velo-cardio facial syndrome.
VCFS is the second most common genetic disorder after Down syndrome. 1 in 2,000 children are born with it, but most people have never heard of VCFS. Cleft palate is the most common indicator of VCFS. It frequently causes heart defects, abnormal kidney function, hearing problems, muscle weakness. The list goes on and on with more than 180 possible abnormalities. People with VCFS often experience language and learning disabilities.
The goal is, with the school, as it is with me, normalcy as much as possible.
My first rotation is reading, and my second rotation is math.
Shayna goes to public school and has an individual education plan, or IEP, that outlines the specific services and classroom settings she needs. Public schools are required by federal law to provide this for children with learning disabilities.
She gets pulled out twice a week for speech. She does have obsessive-compulsive disorder, so the teacher accommodates her by putting her in a corner location versus in the middle of other students.
Look at the ending.
With help from her mother and sister, Shayna's finding her strengths.
I want to be a writer.
That's a goal 26-year-old Quinn Bradley has achieved, despite having VCFS and dyslexia.
There have been a couple times where I was diagnosed as retarded. It's always sort of driven me to prove people wrong.
Dogged determination comes from Quinn's parents, former Washington Post editor Ben Bradley and journalist Sally Quinn.
They would have given up on me.
Now, a kid who struggled with words has grown up to launch a website and author a book for those who share similar challenges.
I want to be able to give kids self-esteem, that they can go and live normal lives, and that having dyslexia or VCFS is not the worst thing in the world.
There are online resources to help young people and their parents cope with learning disabilities and connect with others with these same conditions. For more information, check out Quinn Bradley's site at www.friendsofquinn.com.